Good evening, everyone. The time is now 7 o'clock. I will call the May 25th, 2021 meeting of the Milcree Township Board of Supervisors to order. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being televised via online on youtube.com. The link can be found at millcreektownship.com/meetings, and it's being recorded by WQLN for viewing on Spectrum Channel 1024 and on youtube.com with closed captioning. Members of the public may attend in person in the General Assembly Room. However, total occupancy is limited to 25 persons and masks are required. Persons who wish to offer testimony at any hearing or to offer other comments during the public comment portion of the meeting but who do not wish to attend in person must contact Township Secretary Cheryl Williams at 814-833-1111 or via email at swilliams@millcreektownship.com no later than 24 hours before the scheduled meeting to make arrangements to participate via telephone. And I understand we do have one individual who has contacted to provide comments during the public comment on agenda items portion. Mr. Waldinger?
That's correct.
Do we have, is it Mr. Delaney?
I will transfer him to you now.
All right, let's see if I can not hang up on him.
Transfer you in.
Good evening, is this Mr. Delaney?
Yes.
Hello, sir. This is John Morgan, Chairman of the Board of Milcree Supervisors. We have you on the line. We understand you want to make some comments this evening on the agenda.
Yes. Would you, am I speaking now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Chairman Morgan, Mr. Bach, and Mr. Ovett, thank you for allowing me to call in to speak this evening. As you mentioned, my name is James Delaney, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my two sisters, Mary Margaret Graham and Carol Ann Delaney. And we're the owners of the residential property at 5245 Grove Road. At the last Supervisors meeting on May 4th, the Planning Commissioners made a strong recommendation by a 4-to-1 vote to remove our property from the official map. However, 4 days ago, on May 21st, I received an email from Mr. Putz stating that our property was now partially back on the map and that this would be voted on tonight. I'd like to ask the supervisors, what was your reason for rejecting the commissioner's recommendation and adding our property back onto the official map?
Well, I guess for point of clarification, I'll defer to our planning director. I don't believe the Planning Commission actually amended the map. They made a recommendation to amend the map. So I don't believe it was ever taken off and then put back on. Is that correct, Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, that's correct. The Planning Commission is a recommending body, and they made that recommendation to the board. But upon further discussion, we decided to partially remove the property, not entirely.
So I guess, sir, for clarification on that, the parcel was not removed. It was recommended to be removed. The board met with our planning director, and I believe a portion of it was removed. Is that correct, Mr. Waldinger?
Approximately 2 acres.
2 acres was removed.
But my question is, why did you reject their recommendation?
Mr. Waldinger?
Well, there were 2 reasons. One was the suggestion at
Mr.
the...
Lane, can you hear Mr. Waldinger?
Not very well.
Okay, I'll relay it if you can't hear it.
Okay. There was the suggestion at the meeting that there was concerns that their property was included on the map in its entirety instead of partially, just in the area of the stream as the neighboring properties had. So we took that into consideration doing that, as well as the fact that there is Walnut Creek there and there are other areas nearby on the map that we'd like to see preserved with a potential conservation easement in the future.
Okay, so sir, I guess the rationale for removing a portion of it was, if you remove a portion of it, that would be developable, and then the rest was due to the proximity to, it was Walnut Creek, man?
Yes.
For conservation purposes, that's why that was left intact on the map.
Well, at the timing of it was very disturbing. Do you feel it was fair and just to make the changes after the commissioners made the recommendation? to remove it after the period of public comment had closed?
Well, the purpose of the public comment period is to receive comments so that the board can make amendments as appropriate based on those comments. So based on the comments received and the recommendation of the Planning Commission, the map was amended to remove portion of that property to, well, sir, I'm telling you that's exactly.
The Planning Commission was to remove all of it.
Yes, and we consider the recommendation and we partially accepted it.
Okay, there were 3 private properties that the Planning Commission had recommended to remove from the map. Did you fully remove all of these or any of these?
Mr. Waldinger?
No. Well, we did not, well, there were more than 3, I should clarify. There were more than 3. There were 3 specific properties, and then any federal lands that were owned by the Erie Municipal Airport Authority. Those were the recommendations.
Yes, I said there were 3 private properties,
Yes.
excluding the federal properties.
None of the 3 private properties were removed in their entirety, no.
One was fully removed?
None were fully removed.
None were fully removed, no.
None was fully removed. Okay, I'll close by stating that we strongly disagree with your decision to reject the Planning Commissioner's recommendation. The Planning Commissioners and the staff and many of the property owners affected by the map have invested many hours writing letters, attending public hearings, and one-on-one discussions, and came to a mutual agreement which was summarized and presented to you at the last Supervisors Meeting. I ask you to reconsider your decision and approve the official map as recommended and amended by the Planning Commissioners and supported by the Township's property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other public comments this evening related to the agenda other than development or rezoning applications? So if you would mind stating your name and address for the record.
Well, I think most of you know who I am. Some would rather forget, but my name is John Grove, former Milcree supervisor, 603 Montpelier Avenue, and I'm here to speak about the official map ordinance. And please make sure John is not going to fall out of his chair. John, I have agreed with you on this when we were talking about the official map. I said that's one of the best things that we could ever do. And for people that may not be aware of it, what it does, it sets a good, strong plan for what we're looking for when it comes to any sort of infrastructure improvement, stormwater controls, because these are things that are happening, and we need to do that there. So, yes, John, it is one of the few times you and I have agreed there. So, for what it's worth, it's a full moon tomorrow night, too, if that means anything.
We agreed on the asphalt plant, too. We at least got that.
We had a couple of them. But anyway, that's not what I'm not here, but I just say that I hope that the Board of Supervisors will approve this. I know you're voting on it tonight there, and I've been following this all along, in the minutes and stuff like that there. So I know it's a very controversial matter, but I just want to remind people, and of course, I'm just an average citizen now, but I also happen to be an instructor of zoning and planning courses for the Pennsylvania Association of Boroughs, doing a little bit about this. And don't worry, people are not, the township's not going to come out tonight and throw you out of your house and take your property and all this stuff and offer you $1 for it. There are procedures in how things would be done. So, and they're all legal. If somebody wants to challenge it, there's a way of dealing with that in court there too. Should get to that point, but I think that the board, the planning commission, I think that they've done a great job in trying to come up with solutions, reserving property, for possible use. It's possible. That's the key word right there. It doesn't mean it's being taken. So anyway, I just wanted to offer that to you guys there, and I do hope that you approve the ordinance. So anyway, that's all I want to say. I got to get going home before I fall asleep, and I go to bed early tonight. So okay, thanks guys.
Thank you, Mr. Grove.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Grove.
John.
Anyone else care to address the board regarding this evening's agenda?
This is a point for even addressing the official map, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, gentlemen. We've met before, but appreciate the time you've put into this. Chairman Morgan, Mr. Olat and Mr. Bach, Matthew, Ms. Williams, and all of you that work for the township. I'm Richard Kerner. I serve as president of St. Nicholas Church in Erie, Pennsylvania. And we're the owner of St. Nick's Grove on Old French Road. Just a few points. It sounds like that you've had discussion on this, which I would have expected. It sounds like you sent an email to that one gentleman that was on the line. I don't recall getting an email. So if I make a few extra comments just to make sure our position is clear. I won't go through the whole letter that I drafted, but I would just want to hit a few highlights. Maybe you're aware, maybe you're not aware. St. Nick's Grove is not an undeveloped piece of property. The church invested running water to the Grove property when it sold part of its property to Milcree Township some 18, 19 years ago or so. So too, the church has made additional major investments in this property, including the kitchen area, closed pavilion, open pavilions, bathrooms, along with play areas for kids, adults, and of course, maintaining the beauty of the green space. We informed the planning commissioners on May 4th at their meeting that St. Nicholas Church is currently fundraising with the intention of helping Father Nicholas Mahaley, who's here present tonight, to move to Milcree Township. He currently resides at 1115 East Avenue in Erie. Not the greatest place to raise a family, so the church board and membership felt it was important to move him in a timely manner, and he selected a home in Milcree Township that he will be renting. The church will be paying for that. So we started a capital campaign with the intention of doing so, and then possibly even purchasing that home down the road for a residence that the church owns that he can utilize with his family. So too, it's our intention to continue to fundraise for the express purpose of building a church. The church could be built on the cemetery grounds. The likely place would be the Grove, the current location of St. Nick's Grove. So it is our express intention to develop that grove, which is already developed, so further develop it and build a church. Now, how long will that take? Only the Lord knows. It could be 2 years, perhaps 5 to 7, 10 years. We don't know. But we have generous parishioners and donors, some not even members of our church. Some 20 years ago or so, when we had some major renovations to the church, a donor from the community at a major corporation, not even affiliated with the church, paid $20-some thousand for that roof. We've already received donations for our capital campaign that are unbelievable, that word has gotten out that we want to have a church outside of Erie, Pennsylvania, but in Milcree Township. So that's exciting. You've heard from people speak on our behalf. You've heard the scouts. People got animated. People are all over the place, but people still supported St. Nicholas Church, and we really appreciate that. So as I look to close, as you know, the Milcree Township Planning Commissioners voted to recommend to the supervisors. Now, I live in New York State, so I'm not clear on Pennsylvania. Do the supervisors appoint the planning commissioners?
We do, yes.
You do. So we ask that you honor the work of your planning commissioners who you appointed to do the job, and therefore honor their recommendation to remove St. Nicholas Church property from the official map, the St. Nick's Grove. Such a decision we feel would be consistent with the formal vote. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Would anyone else care to address the board this evening related to tonight's agenda?
Father Nicholas Mahaley, currently at 1115 East Avenue, Erie, Pennsylvania. Soon to be, hopefully in the next month, on Torrey Drive. When I first was assigned to St. Nicholas almost 4 years ago now, coming with a 4-year-old son at that time, it was a scary neighborhood, a bad school district, and the parish saw my wife's fear and heard my wife's fear and acted very quickly. And when they had said, when they had asked me, Father, how long would you anticipate, I had said, 3 to 5 years. And they said, how about 2? And it turns out to be actually 1. These aren't people who are wishy-washy. They're not people who are going to sell to the highest bidder. They're people who care about their church, who care about their property, and who care about their people and their community. So one of the big things with this official map that I kept hearing was, what's going to happen in the future? What would happen if, somebody sells to the highest bidder? I can't guarantee what's going to happen in the future, but I can guarantee you that people at St. Nicholas Church care about their church. They care about their church. They care about the community. They don't want to see, and even if and when we go to build, they don't want to see a big giant crystal cathedral. They want to see a beautiful place that will be aesthetically pleasing, which will accentuate and enhance the already beautiful beauty of the nature that surrounds it. In the Orthodox Church, we care about beauty. We care about nature. We're called to be stewards of the environment. We're not going to go in and tear things down and rip things up to build something that's ugly. We're going to preserve what's there and take care of it and only make it better. Why? Because we care about our church, we care about our people, we care about our community. And they've shown that. And I hope you would see that when you go to make your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else care to address the board this evening related to this evening's agenda? Thank you, sir. Again, if you could please state your name and your address. I believe there's a sign-in sheet up there as well.
My name's Carl. I basically want to speak to your ordinance. Your ordinance tells people whose property is not developed that if they try to develop it, the township will step in and have a third party appraise that property, and then the township will buy it. They have 1 year to buy it. The people that you are looking at have kept their property undeveloped all these many years. While Milcree Township government, not necessarily you, but all administrations, allowed subdivisions, allowed changes from agricultural to single-family dwelling to multi-family dwelling to multiple-story apartment buildings. These people recognized their duty of stewardship to the land, and they kept their land pastoral. So now you come and you assail the very people who recognized our duty, our God-given stewardship duty to protect God's world, and you put them in a position where their property is devalued by being on the map. That counts against selling it. The very people that you should be lauding, the very people that you should be lifting up and praising for having the foresight to keep their property pastoral, you have attacked, you have alienated. Now, I'm no politician, but there has to be at some point some political fallout from that. I think that if someone had tried to sell their property, like Mr. Delaney, and now it's on the map and the ability to sell that property is reduced, that has reduced his ability to realize the full value of that property. That might well be actionable in civil court. You're liable to find out. The other thing I want to tell you is that on this map, you say some of these properties might be put to public use. In my family, there are a number of biologists, and they are all ecologists. And I can tell you that what our natural world needs now, more than ever, is not public use of rural areas. What is needed is sanctuary for wild plants and wild animals, and that does not happen with the kind of use that we see at Asbury Woods, for example. Parks tend to be sterile, and more biologists are looking at the need to have sanctuary. And in this circumstance, the best sanctuary that you can have for nature really is private property where there is no public access, that's kept fallow, that's kept pastoral. And you need to recognize that. I can't see how you can possibly go against a church. That just seems wrong to me. And I don't think that the citizens of Milcree Township are aware of everything that has gone on with this. And I think that at some point they will be. As I said, I believe you're going to see political pushback, political consequences from this. From the taxpayer standpoint, rather than saying we're going to buy all these properties, sirs, if you would encourage landowners to enter their property into clean and green, enter into an agricultural easement agreement to preserve it that way.
Sir, that's the entire point of the ordinance.
That does not cost the citizens any money.
Sir, I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of the intention of this. The only way to encourage is through an official map, and we are open to all of those compromises you were talking about right now. But the only way that a government entity can encourage or enforce those kind of compromises is by adopting an official map. And that is exactly what we're trying to accomplish today.
When have you advertised and made notice to the citizens of Milcree Township that they could enter into clean and green? When was the last time?
Why would we do that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, that we would make it a point to advertise those sorts of programs from the county and from the state. I mean, and you reference that you don't want things developed, but then you say things should stay undeveloped.
Well, we're not going to agree, and I'm not going to stand here and argue in front of everybody. But I think you've taken the wrong turn, and I encourage anyone who has property that is undeveloped and who has no plans of developing it to enter into clean and green. You've made the commitment to protect your property and keep it pastoral, take advantage of the taxes, and it's a good program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else care to address the board this evening regarding agenda items? If you could please state your name and address.
My name is Kimberly Skibinski, and I live at 5571 Henderson Road. I'm the owner of Skibinski Picnic Grove. It was me stating out some facts at that planning committee that my point was to show that Milcree didn't do any due diligence on telling the township that what was happening. Because I had asked how many properties were on the map, and Mr. Puzz had said 86. I had asked how many had contacted him, and he said he didn't keep track. He said approximately 60. And I said, okay, so you have 86 properties, you approximately heard from 60, and there's 3 of us in the room that don't want to be a part of it. So here's the thing. I read it. I am not opposed to the official map whatsoever. I totally support what its agenda is and the transparency that everybody keeps telling me is supposed to be visible. The problem is it's my property and I don't want to be a part of it, just like Mr. Delaney and St. Nick's Grove. So I came tonight after receiving the email from Mr. Puzz on Friday regarding that a portion of my house would be, or portion of my property parcel would be removed from the official map. Upon looking at it, still my well, septic, and shed are in the official map, so my house is still in the official map. It might just be, you know, a technicality to some, but it might not be in the future. So my thoughts are is that I wanted to have my property removed, or at least have the option to know more about it. I did so much research over the last 3 months, like I couldn't even explain to you how many migraines I've had. There is so much I have read, so animated that I got so upset at that planning commission meeting because I was talked to as if I did not read the official map to begin with. I don't know if you guys just take the recommendations from the planning committee or if you actually watch the meetings. It was a pretty long one, a pretty substantial heated one. And afterwards, I am an emotional being crying from head to toe for hours, and everybody said, "You won." And I said, "No, I didn't. I won the recommendation for it to be put in front of you guys." I had mentioned that I didn't have as much community support because I'm solely it. I have 3 little boys. I have a boyfriend. We both work full time. The Grove was my dad's. They're both gone. I was an orphan by 30, and here I am. So I just don't want to be part of it. So what I assume is happening tonight is you're voting on adopting the ordinance. I don't see that any changes can be made prior to this vote here in a couple minutes. If that's not true, that's not true. If it is, it is. I just wanted to make sure that on the record, I stated that I wanted that recommendation to go through for me and the other 2 properties, the only 3 properties that showed up asking to be removed completely. I don't understand why we couldn't be. And to I guess every question that I ask, I don't really get a solid answer. I can tell you right now, I'm a 35-year-old educated girl, single mom with a master's degree. But when I reread the ordinance that wasn't the draft on the website today, I was like, I don't get the newspaper. I didn't hear about this. Oh, I read it in the spring magazine only because I received the letter in the mail, which also was addressed to my deceased mother because the estate's still in her name. So luckily I opened it, right? So I guess me being here, I want to know that I'm standing up here for Mr. Delaney, for myself, for St. Nick's Grove, for Skavinsky Picnic Grove, because the way I look at it is if I'm on the official map, there is going to be so many road bumps for me moving forward and giving the joy that I like to give to the residents of Milcree, to the residents of Erie. I have a picnic this Saturday from New York City. It's amazing the joy that I can try to bring to somebody, but I am only one person. So I just asked to be removed, and I don't think that's going to happen, but I felt like in the event that something like this happens again, I would like more due diligence on Milcree's behalf, letting the township members know that this is happening. Thank you.
Would anyone else care to address the board this evening related to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Next is approval of the minutes. Gentlemen, are there any questions or comments related to the May 11th, 2021 minutes?
No, sir.
No. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. The next item is approval of the bills. Any questions or comments on the bills, gentlemen? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the payment batch register for this week?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next on the agenda is bids and quotations. First item is the Milcree Township Sidewalk Accessibility Project Phase 9 Award, Planning and Development Department. Mr. Waldinger, Ms. Sokol, whoever would like to address the board.
My name's Ann Sokol. I am the Milcree Township engineer. We opened bids for the Milcree Township Sidewalk Accessibility Project Phase 9 on April 15th of this year. We got 5 bids. The top 3 were Empire Snow for $143,020, $143,020. Number 2 was Lindy Paving, $171,555. Number 3 was Amendola Construction and Maintenance, $191,458. I'm going to recommend that we award this project to Lindy Paving, even though they're not the lowest monetary bidder, they are the lowest responsible bidder. We ran into this problem last year with the same contractor. I spelled it all out in the meeting then, and I am ready to do that again if you'd like. But they were not able to give me any other information to change my mind or the idea that we're not providing Milcree with the best product for their money, which is what I feel my job is. So if you like, I can read off what the responsible bidder means. I can read off the reasons that we don't want them, or we don't want to accept their low bid. Otherwise, you can accept my recommendation.
Well, Ms. Sokol, I think we all acknowledge, we all accept your recommendation, but I believe, Mr. Shaw, for the record, we should probably have that read into the record.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for the record, we need to at least establish the facts upon which to base your ultimate decision of accepting that recommendation.
Okay, so I will tell you. Pennsylvania courts have articulated a standard for determining when a bidder is the lowest responsible bidder. The lowest responsible bidder does not mean that such bidder is merely the lowest bidder. The word responsible includes a number of things. It contemplates promptness, faithfulness, and the capacity and ability to do the work according to the plans and specifications. Men of skill must be employed in and about the work. The municipal authorities, in investigating the bidders, should inquire into the character of work heretofore done by them and determine whether it was safe. Every bar should be erected by municipal authorities against a dishonest contractor, one who would impose inferior work or material on the city or township in this case. Such work can be got through in spite of the utmost caution on the part of the inspectors, engineers, and other authorities in charge of the work. Much depends on the inherent honesty of those who do the work. We have had Empire Snow Management do work for us. They have breached contract. They have not completed contract in contract time. Their work, although it is compliant, is not to the standard that Milcree is used to. So I have a list of things from last year that were not done correct, or from 2019, I'm sorry, that were not done correctly. When they submitted their bid for this year, there were no changes. I contacted the references that they gave me, which were the same references that were given to me in the prior contract, and got the same response. There was no difference between that contract and this. I can't see awarding this one when we found it right to not award the last one.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Mr. Chair, if I could just ask one question of Ms. Sokol. So, Ms. Sokol, what you're saying is that with respect to submitting this bid, the contractor provided no supplemental information or different information than the last time they submitted a bid we rejected, indicating that they have changed their ways in any way with respect to their construction habits.
This is correct. Also, I want to say that the monies for this is coming from CDBG, and the amounts are covered in full by CBDG, whatever. That money, okay? Is there anything else? Any other questions?
No, thank you, Ms. Sokol. We appreciate your diligence on this stuff. All right, is there a motion to approve, the Milcree Township Sidewalk Accessibility Project Phase 9 award to be awarded to Lindy Paving for the cost of $171,555?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I'll vote yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, madam. Next is for a copy machine lease. This is from the Public Services Department. It's requesting the lease of a new copier for the downstairs office. Mr. Olet?
Sure. Public Services is requesting the lease of a new copier for the downstairs offices. This is a budgeted item. It replaces a 10-year-old copier that they can no longer get parts for. 3 quotes were asked for and received. The first quote was from Schwab for $76.95 a month for a 5-year term. Next bid was from Kubinski at a cost of $82.82 a month for 60 months. And the third bid was from Hagen at a cost of $115 a month for 63 months. It's a recommendation to go with the quote from Schwab for $76.95 a month for a 5-year term. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I'll vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is for demolition. This is from the Planning and Development Department. Mr. Waldinger.
Yes, thank you, sir. This is regarding the demolition of a manufactured home that is located at 544 Conti Drive in Mill Creek. The mobile home at that location experienced a fire in October of 2020. The insurance company in a case like this, the insurance company transmits 10% of the insurance money to the municipality in order to ensure final demolition and resolution of the matter. The 10% that the insurance company delivered to the township was in the amount of $2,793. The fire-damaged mobile home was never demolished or removed. The owner was sent a notice of violation and given 30 days to demolish the trailer. At this time, they have not done so. Code enforcement obtained 3 quotes for the demolition and removal of this damaged structure. The 3 quotes were from DRS of Erie in the amount of $6,500, Safford Services for $6,500, and KC Transportation for $2,400. It is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Department that the township award the bid for demolition of 544 Conti Drive to KC Transportation at a cost of $2,400. All costs for the demolition will be covered under the insurance money that is currently in escrow with the township treasurer.
Any questions or comments from the board? All right, is there a motion to award the bid to KC Transportation at a cost of $2,400?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the sale of paver, and I believe just the paver, no longer the tack truck. Correct, Mr. Snyder?
Correct. It'll be just the paver.
All right, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. Public Works is seeking permission to sell one 2008 Vogel paver, model number 52032, serial number 775026, for $28,000 to the City of Erie. Item is of no longer use to the township since we are having our paving done by a third party. It would be my recommendation to sell the paver to the city of Erie for $28,000.
Any questions or comments from the board? All right, is there a motion to authorize the sale of the paver to the city of Erie for a total of $28,000?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. And next item is the adoption of the official map of Milcree Township and proposed ordinance 2021-5, an ordinance of the Township of Mill Creek, Erie County, Pennsylvania, establishing and adopting an official map of the whole of the township pursuant to the Municipalities Planning Code and amending the Township Code to create a new chapter 124 entitled Official Map. Mr. Shaw or Mr. Waldinger, who would like to?
Mr. Chairman, if I could begin, I'll begin with a short presentation going over the reasons for an official map and kind of detailing the process of how we got here. I'll then turn it over to Attorney Shaw to kind of go through the legalities of the adoption of an official map and the details of the ordinance itself. Thank you.
Proceed, sir.
Okay. The adoption of official map was recommended by Embrace Mill Creek as a way for the township to comprehensively examine the township and identify properties that could be beneficial for future public use. It is a transparent process that ensures that property owners are aware of the township's interest before they make any development plans for their property. The focus of creating the map is preserving green space for future generations. It was developed by first examining existing open space or recreation areas, then properties near existing township parks and facilities, and then areas that are ecologically sensitive or prone to water accumulation with an eye towards preserving and protecting those. This project was begun in early March 2020 with the creation of a base map which showed existing physical features, public lands, and township-owned properties. This map was distributed to a steering committee comprised of township planning staff, the Director of Parks and Recreation, and a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. Unfortunately, COVID delayed the first few meetings of the steering committee. They did not reconvene again until early July, but once the meetings began, the committee proposed and discussed parcels of interest to the township as identified by the above criteria. The steering committee's work was reviewed by the Board of Supervisors to obtain their thoughts, and this resulted in the draft official map. Once the draft was completed, a plan was implemented to notify affected property owners, educate the public on the map, and to follow the required adoption steps as outlined in the Municipalities Planning Code. Prior to any public announcements, letters were sent to all affected property owners on February 8th, 2021. This was to ensure that these owners would be the first to know about the map. We wanted them to hear about the map first directly from the township and have a chance to get more information prior to our first public event, which was an open house that was scheduled for March 11th. An article was prepared for publication in late February in the Mill Creek magazine explaining what an official map is and inviting the public to the open house on March 11th. This article was followed up by a press release from the board so that local media could help spread the word. On March 11th, the open house was held where the official map process was explained and people had a chance to take their first looks at the completed map and ask specific questions. This meeting was attended by over 20 people. Contemporaneous to the open house, a website was created. It's at millcreektownship.com/officialmap and publicized at all public meetings. The site has downloadable copies of the map as well as the corresponding ordinance, and it also contained an online form where visitors could submit their comments about the map. In the first step of the legally prescribed adoption process, the Board of Supervisors at their March 23rd regular meeting voted to forward the map to the Planning Commission for consideration. The next day marked the first day of the mandated 45-day public comment process, and copies of the map were delivered to the Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development, as well as all municipalities in the county that share a border with Mill Creek Township. On April 6th, the first of two Planning Commission meetings to be held during the comment period occurred, and several property owners voiced concerns about their properties being included on the map. On May 4th, the second Planning Commission meeting during the comment period happened, with additional comments given regarding parcels that had been discussed in April. On May 7th, the 45-day comment period ended. At the end of the comment period, the Board of Supervisors was given minutes to all Planning Commission meetings, which summarized the comments that had been given in front of the Commission. Also, in total, the Township has received 20 written comments. These have all been printed out and also delivered to the Board in their entirety so that they may review all those. Erie County has notified the Township through the adoption process that the map is consistent with the requirements of the Municipalities Planning Code and consistent with Milcree Township's comprehensive plan. To detail a little more about the process of approving the map, first I want to reiterate that the Planning Commission is a recommending body. So after hearing the comments, they pass along their recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, which considers the Commission's recommendation when developing their decision. At the conclusion of the May 4th Planning Commission meeting, the Commission voted 5-0 to recommend adoption of the plan to the Board of Supervisors. The Commission also voted 4-1 to recommend the removal of the following parcels to the Board: 5245 Grub Road, 5571 Henderson Road, St. Nick's Grove, and all federal properties listed on the map which were held by the Erie the Erie Municipal Airport Authority. After considering the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the public input that has been received, the map has been finalized and is presented for adoption today with the following proposed changes. 1. 5245 Grub Road, approximately the northern 2 acres has been removed from designation for public acquisition. 2. 5571 Henderson Road, approximately 7/10 of an acre between the floodplain and Henderson Road has been removed from designation for public acquisition. 3. St. Nick's Grove had no change proposed. 4. All federal properties under the ownership of the Erie Municipal Airport Authority have been removed. These include a tax parcel on West 20th Street, a tax parcel on Marshall Drive, 3273, 3269, 3265, 3259, and 3225 West 14th Street. 5. The parcel along Henderson Road to the west of 5571, approximately 1 1/4 acres between the floodplain and Henderson Road has been removed for designation for public acquisition. At 4722 Westlake Road, just under 4 acres have been removed from designation for public acquisition. 5241 Westlake Road, approximately 11 acres have been removed from designation for public acquisition. At 5241 Westlake Road and the parcel south of it on Wilkins Road, the proposed public street extension through these properties has been eliminated. At this time, I will now turn it over to Township Solicitor Mark Shaw to explain the Township's authority to create an official map and to review the accompanying ordinance.
Thank you, Matt. I think there was one additional change you didn't mention relating to the designation of waterways was changed to existing water courses.
I'm sorry, that is correct. Yes, that was just a notation how it was noted on the map, but that is correct.
As Matt indicated, the municipalities planning code is the source of the township's authority to create an official map. It authorizes the township to adopt an official map in section 401 of that code, and it authorizes that map to identify certain existing or proposed public lands and facilities, such as existing or proposed streets, water courses, public parks, playgrounds, open space, floodways, stormwater management facilities, and so forth. Section 406 of the MPC authorizes the township to establish a time period during which owners of the properties identified on the official map are a time period that, in this case, was designated as in perpetuity. So unless someone, indicates that they plan to develop that parcel, it'll remain identified as part of the official map as long as this particular official map remains in existence. Section 401 requires the time period, let me restate that. That a perpetuity time period that has been established is the time period during which owners of the properties identified in the official map under Section 401, when they are required to provide notice to the township before developing the property so that the township has the opportunity to acquire those properties. In addition, the provisions of the MPC and the mere fact that you've adopted the official plan or official map does not trigger a taking. Essentially, the official map is a planning tool to be used by the township to preserve lands within the township that are consistent with the township's approved comprehensive plan. In this case, we identified those areas, and as part of, under the MPC, an ordinance is required to ultimately pass and adopt the official map, and the ordinance needs to contain various provisions to enable that the management of that. In this case, the township is proposing to adopt Chapter 124 of their code under Sections 124-2 and 124-3 of the proposed ordinance. It adopts the official map and incorporates the official map into the township's code. Section 124.8 provides that after passage of the ordinance, property owners are not able to build within the area designated on the official map unless they obtain a special encroachment permit. Under Sections 124.11 and 12, those outline the procedure for the landowner to file for a special encroachment permit, which includes the application process, public hearing requirements, the action to be taken by the board, and the availability of an appeal to the zoning hearing board. If a special encroachment permit is approved, the property owner will receive a permit that allows them to proceed with building. Under Section 124-9A, the properties that are designated on the official map are reserved for future taking and acquisition for perpetuity unless notified by the owners in accordance with Section 124-9B. 124-9B provides that the township's reservation on a property shall lapse and become void 1 year after an owner of such property has submitted written notice to the township announcing their intention to build or subdivide or otherwise develop the designated property, or when they have made a formal application to build a structure on the designated property.
Mr. Shaw, just for clarification.
Sure.
So the encroachment permit, if that is submitted, that counts as notice?
It is, I don't believe it counts as notice unless they're actually proceed to file the permit to build on the designated property. They first have to, in order to get a permit to build, they have to get the approval to, file for a special encroachment permit. So it's a nuance, but it's two separate processes.
Okay, so the 1 year process does not begin with the encroachment permit, and it begins with the
Filing of a
development
regular building permit or zoning permit.
Okay, thank you.
We also have clarify in Section 129-9B what constitutes written notice and who at the township should receive that notice. So and lastly, Sections 124.3B and C include various procedural requirements that you follow for adopting and amending the official map. So the ordinance essentially outlines, what authorities the township has with respect to the official map, what rights the property owners of those properties designated as a property under the official map, what they can do and not do from that perspective. And all of it is consistent with the MPC provisions.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Anything like to add, Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, I just wanted to say that at this time, I would recommend that the board approve the official map as it is present in front of you, with the changes that I just enumerated, along with the clarification of the labeling of existing waterways.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any questions or comments from the board? right, with that, is there a motion to approve the official map of Milcree Township and Ordinance 2021-5?
I'll make that motion, John.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Mr. Waldinger, thank you and your team for all your work on this, and certainly appreciate you moving forward to implement Embrace Milcree. Next item is the amended land development plan, Whispering Woods 4A, Stonebridge Condominiums. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, in front of you is an amended land development plan for Whispering Woods 4A, which is now known as the Stonebridge Condominiums. This amended plan is being submitted to memorialize the final layout of the development now that all the unit configurations have been determined. A little bit of background on this. This was originally submitted as part of the Whispering Woods subdivision as a fixed condominium where all of the buildings were of the same style in a set location. A new owner of the condominium complex has done an amendment with the township to turn it into a flexible condominium, which allows for multiple different unit styles. Because each unit purchaser can choose a different unit style, it was difficult to require an amended land development plan as it would be constantly changing throughout its development. So the agreement with the developer was that upon the final completion of the last unit, once the final configuration of the condominium was complete, they would submit an amended land development plan to memorialize that and record it. So that's what's in front of you now. It is my recommendation that the board approve the amended land development plan for Stonebridge Condominiums, Whispering Woods 4A.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Shaw, do you have any concerns or comments about this?
No, this was, Matt and I both did research on this in terms of, we were a little confused when we first got the request because of the, somewhat unusual, but then as we went back and looked at the history of it, it clearly was, as Matt explained, decided to wait until the very end of this particular subdivision to have them just file simply a final version as constructed. And I think all along, as they did of individual ones, they were submitting those to the township as well. So it wasn't like we haven't heard from them in 10 years. It's been a progression.
Okay, then. Is there a motion to approve the amended land development plan for Whispering Woods 4A?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the consent to Fifth Amendment to Stonebridge Condominiums. So that is not what we just did? This is different.
This is different, yes.
Mr. Waldinger, please eliminate.
Thank you. This does go hand in hand, though, with the previous action. This is a form that's necessary for the developer to amend the condominium declaration. This would be the final amendment necessary and would be the one that allows them to build and memorialize the final configuration as far as the condominium declaration is concerned. So as you see before you, there is a form in there that requires the township supervisor's consent to the changes that they propose. Changes are the same as what's on the amended land development plan, so I would recommend that the board approve this and authorize the chairman to sign the form.
Mr. Chair, if I could just real quick on this. The consent has language indicating this was being consented to by resolution. I would just simply recommend that we cross off the, quote, by resolution duly adopted, and just simply say that the township at its regular meeting has approved the Fifth Amendment. We don't approve these typically by resolution, and I don't think it's not required for them either. It was just the form that they used.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the consent to the Fifth Amendment to the Stonebridge Condominiums?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a public hearing on a conditional use request, Sid's Place, John Gelati, for property located at 2992 Westlake Road to install new signage in the RC Resort Commercial District. Mr. Waldinger, if you wouldn't mind starting, I'll get right to you, sir. Hold on. Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to report that at their regular meeting of Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, the Milcree Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this conditional use as it met all requirements for a conditional use.
Okay. Sir, would you like to address the board this evening?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to address the board?
No, I just want to get my sign.
Makes sense. Is there anyone else who would care to address the board regarding this conditional use? All right, any questions or comments from the board?
No, sir.
Mr. Waldinger, do you have any concerns?
No, as I mentioned, in the Planning Commission also reviewed, it meets all the requirements for a conditional use.
All right, is there a motion to approve the conditional use request for signage at 2992 Westlake Road?
I'll make that motion, John.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
How about yes? That was easy. Next is a referral to the Planning Commission of petition requesting a change in zoning classification for Orco Family LP for portions of properties located at 2920 and 2942 West 12th Street, the portions which front West 11th Street, now zoned R1, single-family residential, asking for the properties to be classified as RC Resort Commercial. Mr. Waldinger.
Well, this is a standard action that the supervisors are asked to do, which is to refer a petition for rezoning to the Planning Commission to begin the process.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. John, but the one comment I would have to Mr. Shaw or Mr. Waldinger is, it is my understanding that the petitioner is currently in violation of a township ordinance, I believe, at one of these locations, possibly?
It's not here, this is across the street.
Across the street. And I believe we do have language in our ordinances that we can deny all permits to individuals who are currently in violation of township code. Is that accurate?
That is correct. That is our prerogative.
So I'm just wondering if we want to refer this matter further. I mean, I think we could have had grounds to deny their zoning permit to begin with, considering that we are, I think, actively engaged in enforcement action on this petitioner.
Is there any recommendation from Mr. Shaw or Mr. Waldinger? I know, kind of short notice. Well, you
I
can't
guess,
comment.
yeah,
Mr. Waldinger, I forgot.
I mean, Chairman Morgan is correct. We do have that ability to stop any approvals that are being sought by someone that is in violation. You know, I guess the determination the board would have to make is, do you want to do that now until it's rectified, or do you want to, you know, wait until the end of the process when it's in front of the board if you'd like to give time for it to be rectified? That would be up to you.
Well, Mr. Waldinger, I guess I have a question for you. Is that our ordinance allows us to deny permits. We couldn't deny rezoning based, if it goes through the entire process and comes to us for rezoning at the end, we wouldn't have grounds to deny rezoning based on someone being violating a permit. We'd have to actually deny them the ability to enter into the process at the start. Correct?
Yeah, I will add that rezoning is an act of the township. I mean, they're petitioning us to make a change to the ordinance, so it is always our prerogative whether or not to do that. But otherwise, your point does stand, yes.
I'll make a motion for referral as presented. I'm okay with letting the process kind of play out, and we can address it at that point.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I'll vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I'll vote yes.
And I will vote no. Next item is Resolution 2021 R27. A resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015-R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. This evening, the request is from the Milcree Township Police Department, requesting approval to dispose of dash cam videos that reach their required retention period. That it would be the videos that reach the required retention period between the dates of March 26th and June 8th. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021-R27?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is Resolution 2021-R28, request for county aid liquid fuels funds for road salt. Mr. Snyder, Mr. Olet, Ms. Salt. Oh, all right. Mr. Zachewski.
The process that PennDOT makes us go through to get the county aid requires us to first approve a resolution at our level asking the county to act on the county project for road salt. I've documented that we spend $127,274 for road salt for the winter season. The county has budgeted $87,260 for liquid fuels money to the township, and that's what we're requesting in the resolution. This will be, if you approve this resolution, it will be forwarded to the county. They will act on it, and then ultimately be sent to PennDOT to be reimbursed. And it would be my recommendation to approve the resolution for application for county aid, because our cost exceeds the amount that the county is allocating to us.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on Resolution 2021-R28? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021-R28?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is Resolution 2021-R29, a resolution to extend the disaster emergency declaration, update and modify various township COVID-19 policies. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. On May 20, 2021, the governor extended the Commonwealth's disaster emergency declaration until it is either, quote, rescinded by him or terminated by law, close quote. The township's current emergency disaster declaration terminates as of midnight tonight, and given that the COVID-19 pandemic, though improved, has not been concluded, this proposed resolution would extend the township's disaster emergency declaration in the same manner as the governor's order. In addition, as you know, there have been a number of recent changes on the federal and state level to the various COVID policies easing restrictions. On May 13 of 2021, the CDC revised its masking policy as it applies to those who have been fully vaccinated, providing that those people who have been fully vaccinated did not have to wear masks and do not have to socially distance, except in a few identified instances which typically don't apply within the township. 3 days later, on May 16th of 2021, the Pennsylvania Department of Health issued an order adopting the CDC position on masking for those who have been fully vaccinated. And on May 13 of 2021, the governor issued an order that would terminate the November 23rd, 2020 order for mitigation, enforcement, and immunity protections, except as to masking requirements. In response to these policy changes, it's recommended that the township's policies similarly change where appropriate. As a result, we are recommending changes to the following policies that have been previously adopted by the township: the COVID-19 Township Operations Policy, the Milcree Township Procedures for Probable or Confirmed COVID-19 Cases, and the COVID-19 Township Mask Policy. The vast majority of these changes occur in the township's operations policy. This was the policy that applied broadly across the township's facilities and day-to-day operations, covering all of its departments. As a result of the governor terminating the order for mitigation, enforcement, and immunity protections effective May 31, many of the policies under the operations policy are no longer needed and have been eliminated. So for example, the restrictions on occupancy in the buildings, the offices and meeting rooms will be eliminated. This will result, for instance, in the General Assembly Room going back to some sense of normalcy in terms of the public meeting arrangements. There are a few exceptions, however. There will remain some limitations on visitor access to the building. In order to gain access to the secured areas of the building, visitors will need to be escorted by the township or tenant employees, will be required to wear masks unless they have shown proof of being fully vaccinated. The township will also keep it in place its practice of enhanced cleaning and disinfecting in the building and its parks. The participant restrictions on township programming will be removed. So for instance, township programming will once again be available to non-residents, including the pool areas. However, masking requirements for those not fully vaccinated will continue to apply in all of our programming. And lastly, though there have been some easing of restrictions for summer camps, many of those have been kept in accordance with the recently issued updated CDC guidance for summer camps. The procedures for probable or confirmed COVID-19 cases has been revised to account for the lessened need for sanitization in accordance with CDC policy, as well as the removal of masking and social distance requirements for those who are fully vaccinated. While cleaning and disinfecting will still be performed, it will be at a reduced rate. The mask policy has been amended primarily to recognize the new fully vaccinated mask policy. The policy makes clear that those who are not vaccinated are required to wear masks, and those who are fully vaccinated are not required to wear masks. The policy makes clear that an employee who does not need to wear a mask, policy also makes clear that an employee who does not need to wear a mask, if it impedes their vision, if they have a medical condition, or would create an unsafe condition in which to operate equipment or execute a task. This is consistent with what had been in place before. We simply made it clear that this occurs. So the recommendation would be to approve this resolution and approve these changes. The mask policy amendments would take effect immediately. The amendments to the other two policies would take effect when the governor's order terminating the mitigation order goes into effect, which is midnight on May 31st.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021-R29?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And I want to recognize Mr. Shaw's work and Mr. Waldinger's work, taking the lead on all of these policies and procedures of the past year to keep our employees safe and healthy, and also the public bids our building. You guys have really been real assets to the township, and we certainly appreciate all of your work and all your efforts on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to also, frankly congratulate the township, because the township and all of its employees did a great job of following the rules, doing what they were supposed to do, and as a result, I think, it kept the township employees healthy, and you guys should be very proud of them.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Shaw.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lydia, too. Sorry about that. Ms. Caparosa, for your work on this stuff, too. All right, good meeting.
Not done yet,
Oh,
sir.
there's more. All right. Next item is Resolution 2021-R30, a resolution amending 2021-R15 to amend the township's local match commitment of its 2021 Watershed Restoration and Protection Program grant application. Mr. Waldinger, Mr. Shaw.
I could take that. This is simply a resolution increasing the amount of the township's commitment to fund the 2021 Watershed Restoration and Protection Program grant application. If you recall, there was a match that was required of $45,000. At the time, that was believed to be the maximum. But after the DCED reviews the application, they came up with a different total amount that the project would cost, which would require an additional commitment of $16,453 for a total maximum commitment of $61,453. And so as a result of this revised total, we've proposing this amended resolution.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No, sir.
It's a good thing we just sold that paver, I guess.
I need it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could point out that
Sure.
the discrepancy came because the grant will only cover a contingency up to 5%, and our engineer had a contingency that's at 10% to cover any future. So the amount is as needed. It may not completely be necessary, but. I actually submitted the grant, so you can blame me.
It's too late, you already. Keep digging, Matt. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021 R30?
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Item 16, exclusion from land development notification, Willowwood Village Apartments, Mail Center, and Refuse Center. Mr. Waldinger.
Yes, thank you again. This is for Willowwood Village Apartments. The owner, Reedman Corporation, has submitted an application and a request to build a mail and mail and refuse center, which is an accessory building under 1,500 square feet. Total is about 1,451 square feet. This is exempt from our land development requirements, but as usual township practice, we just like to bring it up before the board and notify them that an exemption was granted for this project. I would like to note, as usual, that an exemption from land development does not mean that they are exempted from any of the other township requirements such as stormwater management, permitting, etc. They just don't have to go through the full land development process for a project of this size.
And this is notification, Mr. Waldinger?
This is just a notification because it is under the 5,000 square feet that we're permitted to issue permits at.
Thank you, sir. Next item, the 2021 Highmark Cost Sharing Waiver Program changes. Mr. Zakrzewski.
Yes, we've been asked by Highmark, who's our insurance carrier, whether or not we want to continue to waive the cost sharing for COVID treatment, in-network, inpatient hospital care. We had previously approved this waiver, which in this case it means is if one of our employees or their dependents have to go to the hospital for COVID care, they would not be charged the deductible, co-pays, co-insurance, any of those. That's what's considered cost sharing. Given the fact that we've had few cases, I don't think anybody was hospitalized, and people have gotten, the vaccines are now available. Our exposure on this is small, but it's still an incentive to have them be treated and not withhold care just because they don't think they can afford it. The other side of this, the other thing waiver is that's going to be through the end of the year. The other one is for telehealth. We had waived cost sharing for telehealth visits, and this waiver now is asking to extend it to June 30th, which is just another month. So it makes sense to go ahead and do that for the telehealth, because it reduces the contact and therefore any potential for exposures. It would be my recommendation to approve both waivers, and with any luck, this will be the last time we're extending the COVID care portion of it, because hopefully by the end of the year there'll be herd immunity.
So this is an action we need to, you're recommending us to approve this waiver?
Yes, because it's continuing the waiver we approved all the way back. I guess it was in March or April of last year. We've been waiving these costs.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the cost-sharing waiver program?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I'll vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the 2021 Safe Harbor Agreement. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, this is an agreement that's entered into annually between the township and the safe harbor to manage how referrals are handled between the police department and the safe harbor. This is the same agreement form that was approved last year, and it's recommended for approval.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Make a motion to approve this agreement with Safe Harbor.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. The next item is filling the alternate position on our zoning hearing board. Gentlemen, as you're aware, we've had a vacancy and the alternate position for the zoning hearing board for a few months now. And we have found, I think, an exceptional candidate to fill that position, thanks to the work of Mr. Waldinger and Mr. Puz and their recruitment efforts. I'd like to present Jacqueline Spry for your consideration as an appointment. Ms. Spry has previously served as on the City of Erie Zoning Hearing Board when she was a City of Erie resident. She holds a master's degree in urban planning and has an extensive work history in zoning and development. I think she'd be an exceptional appointment, and I would put it forward as a motion to appoint Ms. Spry as an alternate member of our zoning hearing board.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
No, good addition.
All right, Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And Mr. Waldinger, thank you to you and Mr. Puz for your recruitment efforts. All right, next is communications, treasurer communications. Anything further, Mr. Zakrzewski?
The only thing I have is, it's covered under the training requests, so I have no communications other than the training request.
All right. Next is hiring requests. Mr. Bach, would you like me to read these off, or did you want to handle the police hires?
I'll handle the police hires, if you don't mind. No objection?
By all means, sir.
Thank you, thank you. We have a request from Diane Lyons via our chief, requesting approval to hire the following 5 new police officers. Kyle Mayo, he's currently employed with the City of Meadville. Ryan Adamczyk.
Careful what you wish for, Mr. Bach.
Adam Zach.
Thank you, Matt. Adam Zach. Do you know him, or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, people with that.
Currently employed with the City of Meadville as well. James Chest, currently employed with Gannon University PD. Nathan Regelman, currently employed with Meadville PD. And Alec Calissimo, currently employed at Northeast Police Department. The chief is requesting these 5 new hires. The first 3 that I read would be, their first day here would be on June 1st, and Nathan Regelman and Alex Calissimo would start on June 7th. As you know, at our previous meeting, we authorized the process to begin the hiring of 5 new officers. They did extensive interviews. I believe they interviewed 15 candidates and arrived at, at the top 5 candidates you see before you. So I'd like to make a motion to approve these 5 new police hires.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And next item is the animal enforcement vacancy. Ms. Lyons has requested authorization to begin hiring process to fill the position of animal enforcement officer due to pending retirement that will be effective on July 31st. Is there a motion to authorize Ms. Lyons to begin the hiring process?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is Parks and Recreation seasonal hires. So Dan, if you wouldn't mind just going through all these one by one.
How about we do a group approval?
I mean, if that's what you want to do.
Recommendation from Ashley Marsteller, our Parks and Recreation Director, 2021 summer seasonal employee approval. There's about 45 people here on the list to be hired for our summer programming. Salary ranges anywhere from, looks like, $9.50 all the way up to $15 for some supervisory positions. I'll make that in the form of a motion for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next are training requests. First is from the admin department, Mr. Krzewski.
Yes, I would like to request permission for myself and Melanie Page, Assistant Treasurer, to attend the GFOA PA Annual Conference at State College, PA, September 26th through 29th. The conference costs $300 or $400 for each. Hotel and per diem are $623 each, and personal vehicle mileage would be $231 each, for a total cost of $2,508. This was actually a budgeted item, and we have excess money in the budget because we didn't spend the money to travel to PSATs in Hershey, so our travel budget is healthy, and the training cost was also budgeted. So my recommendation is to approve the request, but that's your decision to make.
Any questions or comments from the board? I make a motion to approve the training request.
Okay, I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. I believe the MPD has some requests as well, Mr. Bach?
I believe Chief Height has one request for training. It's a course he'd like to send 2 officers to the Defensive Tactics Instructor course between June 14th and June 18th at the Mercyhurst University Municipal Police Training Academy in Northeast PA. Total registration costs are $950. Travel will be by department vehicle. This is coming out of the training budget, $950 cost, leaving a remaining balance of $9,650 in the training budget. I'd like to make a motion for approval of this training.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And next item is to inform the public that we did hold executive sessions on May 12th and May 20th to discuss various HR and legal issues. Next is the Public Services Recycling Announcement. Mr. Olet?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Milcree Township's efforts to keep its residents informed about the community have earned us 3 awards in the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors 53rd Annual Citizen Communication Contest. The contest recognizes townships that have successfully communicated programs and activities to its citizens. 2 of our videos, one on the Better Business Bureau's cautions about scams, and the other on township swimming pools, tied for first place in the cable TV programs category. The township also tied for second place in the same category with its program on Presque Isle State Park winter activities. The contest attracted entries from across the Commonwealth in 8 categories, all the way from print media to cable TV, social media, and websites. 36 townships submitted 104 entries for this year's competition, and 25 townships won awards. This is great, great recognition for the efforts put forth by our staff. I want to recognize Judy Zelina, Jessica Stutzman, and Ashley Marsteller for their work in securing these awards for us. It's quite a recognition. So, job well done.
And we should also recognize WQLN for all of their production assistance on those spots. So thanks to our partners at WQLN.
Thank you.
All right. Any further business, gentlemen?
No, sir.
All right. Next is citizens to be heard. Would anyone care to address the board this evening?
Thank you again. Richard Kerner, St. Nicholas Church, 1123 East Avenue, and I live in Westfield, New York. Just to seek some clarity, Mr. Waldringer, as you were going through the different properties and the planning commissioner's recommendations, you had referenced Kim's property and Delaney property, I believe, and you talked about the changes. And then when you got to St. Nick's Grove, you were talking about changes to the commissioner's recommendation. And then you got to St. Nick's Grove, and I heard no changes. I just want to be clear, was that no changes to the commissioner's recommendation?
Yeah, I apologize for not stating that clearly. There were no changes made to the map, so St. Nick's Grove did remain on the map.
Okay, that was the clarity I was seeking, because I didn't hear it that way, but thank you.
Yes, my apologies.
Would anyone else care to address the board this evening? Okay, hearing none. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn at 8:31 p.m.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.